Devin or Malik out, Westbrook in. That is what may be the case for the Sacramento Kings. This is from Matt George on the Kings Russell Westbrook front. Both parties have been talking and have had mutual interest since free agency began. That's been well known from what I gather. The Kings are still looking to move a player like Devin Carter or Malik Monk before they can bring Westbrook in. The Kings have a logjam at the guard position, very little financial flexibility to work with. So again, what Devin's making compared to what Malik's making, Devin's assumed minutes to Malik's assumed minutes. Again, this is all my thought process. It feels more, and let's just say it, types of players, right? I know Devin is nowhere near Malik offensively, nowhere. But defensively, what this team is trying to build their foundation on, you could say Devin is a type of player that Doug Christie and Scott Perry at least continue to tell us that they would want over maybe a Malik Monk. Now, somebody got to score the basketball. Don't get me wrong, because you got Keon, Devin, Russell Westbrook,
Clifford,
Dennis Schroeder, Nick Clifford. Yeah, you got defense, but somebody's got to put the biscuit in the basket. But clearly, the Kings don't think that's going to be much of an issue if they don't move on from DeMar DeRozan and Zach LaVine. So I look at what Matt says, and he specifically writes like Devin Carter or Malik Monk before they can bring Westbrook in. So it's almost as if there might even be another conversation. The only one we know about is Jonathan Kuminga and Devin Carter. We don't know about any other Malik Monk stuff going on here, but according to Matt, they're not going to, or they don't think they're going to bring Westbrook in until one of those guys are gone. So I don't necessarily know what the thought process is, if it's connected to Kuminga. Obviously, Devin Carter has been offered in that Kuminga package. That's the only thing that we know about. So I'm trying to figure out what else. And I got some texts out and trying to get some information. Is there another conversation being had? Is this something, I don't know what Westbrook's market is. Is this something that might go into the season? Is this something that they want to take care of before the season starts? Is there another potential move that the Kings are discussing that involves Malik Monk or Devin Carter? And that's the other part of this. I don't think anybody would argue bringing in, I wouldn't say anybody, because there are some people out there that really do like what they've seen from Devin Carter. I don't think there's a lot of people out there, though, that would argue Devin Carter. I want to keep Devin Carter instead of bringing in Westbrook. I think for a lot of reasons. A lot of people grew up on Westbrook. A lot of people just want a Kings Westbrook jersey. I think a lot of people would be okay with moving on from Devin Carter for Russell Westbrook. Now, when that name turns into Malik Monk, now the conversation changes. Malik Monk, on the other hand, based on this money, when we brought up Malik Monk to Brett Siegel said this is not a situation where the Warriors aren't interested in Malik Monk because of the current situation with how much money they can bring back for Jonathan Kuminga. They just don't look at it as a very good contract period for them, because they don't want anything past the 2 years. Malik Monk, in general, I don't think is viewed as a bad contract, but it feels like a lot of these teams that are interested, nobody is looking at this contract saying we're going to have Malik for the next 3 years. I think we believe, and that's why I said if Malik gets moved, he might start his Dennis Schroeder phase of his career where he could be on 3 different teams in the next 3 years, because it's not a lot of money to spend for a year, but teams aren't out there trying to invest or keep really anybody. It's not even a Malik thing. Anybody for 3 years, even at a shade under 20 mil, unless you're doing specific things that translates very well in the NBA right now. And right now, Malik just kind of being a bucket getter. I just think that there are a lot of people out there, or a lot of players out there that the league feels like could be Malik Monk or can do Malik Monk type of stuff.
Well, and it's interesting too, because like we know Detroit was connected to Malik Monk at the beginning, and they were also a team interested in free agency. But you look at Detroit right now, it's like, now they have Duncan Robinson and Caris LeVert, and they're bringing back Jaden Ivey from injury. I don't think they need Malik Monk anymore. So if that ship has sailed, it's just who's the team this late in the game that is, unless they're trying to just move off of a contract, who is the team this late in the game that is going to try and go after Malik Monk? I feel like once they... I mean, unless the Kings are going to attach something to Malik just to...
Which sounds crazy. How do you go from we got Malik on a bargain to having to attach something to get off of Malik Monk's contract in a year where he averaged the most points in his career?
Because that's the cost of getting Jonathan Kuminga? ? Like that seems to be the explanation that they're making, is that in order to add Jonathan Kuminga and add Russell Westbrook, all of a sudden you have to clear out your logjam of guards and, in theory, give Golden State something that they want. Although, it seems like Golden State might not get that from any team at this point.
No, it doesn't seem like that to be the case. The team that keeps coming up, and again, nobody's gonna want who you would get back, but I still feel like the Bucks might be that team that is trying to convince Giannis to stay. And I think that would tick people off even more, Kuzma for Malik. But that would be, and I don't believe you would bring in Kuzma and Kuminga. But, I mean, Kuzma wouldn't be starting.
Unless you moved both DeRozan and Malik. Well, one way or another, you're going to have to move Malik to a third team or DeRozan to a third team if you're going to pay Kuminga $25 million.
Right. One of them has to go. That's why the Devin. Yeah. So basically, and this actually brings up another point. Obviously, the Kings aren't trying to completely flip their roster. Does it almost feel like there's too much going on in a way? Even when I'm sitting here trying to discuss it and somebody is on the text line saying, Alan, can you talk about the possible DeRozan handshake that you brought up, which was just my opinion, but that's part of the Kuminga thing. So I do wonder, it's not as if they're trying to do too much because nothing is being done, really. There's just been a lot of smoke. All they've actually done this offseason is they've drafted and they brought in Dennis Schroeder. But the rumor mill has been insane, and it's almost like that. What is it? That Horrible Bosses or Always Sunny in Philadelphia? I think it's Horrible Bosses, where he's looking at the board and there's just a bunch of strings and different. Oh yeah, different situations, but nothing has actually happened. So to me, the DeRozan thing is strictly Kuminga. DeRozan, to me, has nothing to do with Russell Westbrook. So anything that happens with DeMar DeRozan is connected to whether or not the Kings get Jonathan Kuminga. Why that is connected to Russell Westbrook is because if the Kings are able to convince the Warriors to take their deal and to take Devin Carter, Dario Saric, a protected first, whatever it is, for Kuminga, then the Kings would move off of DeMar DeRozan, I believe, and also they would be a guard down, which would allow them to now bring in Russell Westbrook. That's how it all connects.
Yeah, I sure feel like I'm in the Charlie Day meme where he's doing that. Because, Dave mentioned it this morning. The easiest path is they have the mid-level exception.
Yes.
Just give Westbrook the mid-level exception, waive Terrence Davis, kumbaya, let's go.
They don't want to spend the cash.
I mean, it's partially not spending the cash, but it's also once you do that, you're not getting Kuminga, and you're not getting one of these other players. So, well, and then there's the Westbrook minutes thing, which I think we might be talking about a little too much, but is a factor. But
I think it's definitely a factor if you don't move off of Devin. If you do what Dave said and just do Terrence and bring in Westbrook, that's just too much. Terrence wasn't playing.
Sure, I get that. And they would essentially at that point have a 9-guard lineup, which they have right now, but if you switch Westbrook for Terrence Davis, you would literally have a 9-guard lineup.
Yeah.
So I guess that's the easiest answer, but it locks you into this group unless you're doing the aforementioned DeRozan for Terry Rozier in 2 seconds, or DeRozan for Kyle Kuzma, or Malik Monk for Kyle Kuzma, or whatever else people have been throwing out to balance the roster.
When we return, Kevin Smith, Spot Track, disagrees with the Kings moving on from this two-way player. Who is it? Alan Stiles, Sactown Sports.
This